Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech Dialogues, which we host in partnership with IDC. And as always, we have a guest from the industry who not only talks about trends, but we also talk about the business of technology. And I have with me Akshay here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And Navkendar, as always, thank you for coming back.
Pleasure.
I mean, we do this together, so you have to be back every time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the conversation this time around is about the PC space and the PC market, more specifically in the laptop spaces in India. And as of us recording this, Navkendar, you've just told me that for the first 2 quarters of the year, you have the numbers out. How has the laptop space performed? What can you tell us about that?
So what we have seen is that the PC market is on a growth trajectory. So first half of the year, we've seen about 3-4% kind of growth. What has been the highlight is the consumer market in this, and specifically, obviously, we'll talk about probably AI is a buzzword for laptops as well, and that's where the AI came into the fore about a few years back, when a lot of chipset vendors they started putting out the AI, AI-enabled silicon. But I think what has happened in the past 2-3 years is there's no word called post-pandemic, but when we exited about 2021, there has been a shift in how consumers see laptop. Now India is not a multi-device market, right? So we have about 700 million, about 70 crore smartphone users. We still have only about less than 250-300 million PC users. Now that's a low base, right? So it's not a multi-device market. Not many people buy the multiple devices. But what has happened is that now consumers think for a serious use case, they need a better machine, which only a laptop can do.
Yeah.
Now tablets is another thing which is happening, and you're confusing everyone. So to that extent, consumer uptick has been, and India is the only market among the region where we are at above pre-pandemic levels, even 3 years after the pandemic sort of ended. Enterprise orders a lot depend on what's happening in the enterprise space, government and education. So that's been doing okay, and obviously Windows refresh is one of the things which is there, which for the remainder of the year will pull the market. But otherwise, PC market has been on a decent growth trajectory for the past many quarters now.
And I know Intel is usually the chip maker, right? When IDC puts out the data for the laptop space, it's usually the OEMs that are coming out. So how do you see the growth in the laptop space, especially since you're the guys providing the chips to all these OEMs that are ranking in the top 5 in reports like the IDC?
Pretty much in line, similar with what Navkendar said, right? We are seeing good growth this year in the PC space, both laptops and to some extent in specific areas like gaming desktops and so on. I think 2025, we have seen the AI PC really coming into its own. We launched this just about a couple of years back, right?
Yeah.
So a couple of years back, it was new. People were still figuring out what it does. I think over the last year and a half, the ecosystem around AI PCs has really matured. The applications which are available, which make use of the NPU, etc., has really come into its own. So I think people have become definitely more aware. They know what benefits it brings to them. So this year especially, we are seeing a good growth in the AI PCs. We still continue to see good growth in traditional growth segments for PC like gaming. So gaming continues to be a strong growth area, for the industry, for us as well. And then, as Navkendar mentioned, in the enterprise space, the Windows 10 end of life refresh, we are seeing good traction in there as well.
Okay. I mean, I know mostly when you talk to IDC or you talk to a brand, they're like, this is what we have achieved so far. But crystal ball gazing, how do you see the rest of the year going, especially since we're at the cusp of Diwali? That's when people usually will buy a lot of products. That's shopping seasons. How do you see the rest of the year?
So 3-4 waves of online sales will start happening. And obviously when online happens, then offline is also responding. All the brands do that. Because many consumers want the touch and feel of the laptop, so they want to go to LFR's own brand stores. So retail expansion by the brand has been big enough, big. Lot of messaging around AI, as Akshay mentioned. While AI might not be the primary feature consumers are looking for to buy, but really it's not a choice right now. It's when they go and buy, nobody says I want a non-AI PC. It's there in your face. It's just that what kind of messaging is being given. I would say that there's no killer app as such, which they're able to, the retailer or even the brands are able to translate to the consumer, but it's not a choice by the consumer. So it's all about, they still go on the specs, AI is obviously all the time there. So consumer will do well in the e-tail and entire space, and maybe by November end, because Diwali is early this time. So maybe November and December might be slightly muted versus last year, but at least in the next August, September, October should be very big. On the commercial, as we spoke, SMB has been doing okay. There's been a lot of buying happening from SMBs, but enterprise space, the Windows refresh is one of the key ones. Not necessarily on the AI piece, but Windows refresh is a key one.
I mean, so Akshay, I mean, this is more for you. Is Intel's performance in India over the last 2-3 years has been very diversified, so to speak, right? From 12th gen, 13th, 14th, and then there was all of a sudden a shift to a new branding with Core Ultra. Now we're in the second generation of Core Ultra. Core Ultra was more in line with AI PCs coming in with the NPUs. So for the audience, can you just elaborate a little bit on the transition between being so generational to the new terminologies of Core Ultra, and how are you communicating stuff in AI? Like you have NPU, you have TOPS. This actually, when we talk to our audience, which is the non-tech savvy audience, we've gone back to explaining the difference between megahertz and gigahertz and why you should have a dual core instead of a single core PC. Yeah. So how has this journey been for Intel?
Yeah, it's been a good journey. So as you rightly said, a couple of years back, we had launched the 13th generation processors. That actually was a successor to our 12th generation. So with 12th generation, the so-called Alder Lake family, we had introduced for the first time our performance hybrid architecture.
Yeah.
That really created a stir in the market, right? Because from a performance standpoint, it really gave a pretty big jump gen over gen, right? We followed that up with the 13th gen, which was a refinement of that architecture. And what we saw is that we saw very good traction, right? Even today, if you see, there is still a lot of demand which we see on the 13th gen processors, right? Especially in SMB, lower end of enterprise and so on. But if you see, go back to 2023 end, that's when we launched the first generation of AI PCs with our Meteor Lake family, when we branded as Core Ultra. Now, why did we move away from the traditional generation to the new nomenclature, which is Core Ultra Series 1, Series 2? So I think Intel has a very long legacy of bringing innovation that makes sense for end users, right? We just don't do innovation for the sake of it, not for the sake of ticking a spec on the paper, right? It has to make sense in terms of actual use cases. If you go back to our history when we came up with Centrino in laptops, it was a killer app, right? I mean, from hardware perspective, it changed the way people use their laptops. We followed that up with Ultrabooks, and we said for the Windows laptops, we want to make everything thin and light, right? Easy to carry, good battery life, and so on. Then the performance hybrid architecture with 12th and 13th gen. We made improvements in our integrated graphics, right? So integrated graphics, Intel Arc graphics now is pretty good enough to play a game with good quality settings and so on. So what was the next leap, right? The next leap was AI, right? And that's where the NPU came in. And why do we need AI PCs, right? So if you see the last 3 years, about 2022 when ChatGPT came out, and if you see since then till now, AI has exploded, right? There's been a lot of advancements that we would not have forecasted, predicted 2 years back. What we are going to see in the next 3 years, I believe, is going to be even more accelerated, right? The kind of advancements you'll see on AI, even more than the cloud, what you can do on the device is going to be phenomenal, right? Yeah. We are seeing a lot of ISVs pushing the AI processing down from the cloud to the edge because it makes sense, right? From a latency standpoint, it's faster. From an economic standpoint, it's definitely better, right? So AI PCs was our play into making those kind of advancements happen. So the NPU, what's called a neural processing unit, is a specialized hardware, right, which is built into the SoC. And what it does is it can run these AI workloads, sustained AI workloads, which means it can run for a long time. But it is a very efficient engine, right? It doesn't take too much power consumption. The benefit is then you can run those AI on your PC without much impact to your battery life. So what it means is that if you don't have an AI PC and you run those applications which are increasingly getting integrated with AI features, those would use a CPU or GPU, and guess what? That takes away performance from your CPU, GPU. That takes a lot of power. Your battery life goes down. So the end user experience goes down because when they buy a new PC, they expect first of all it has to be a good PC, right? Yeah. The performance has to go up for all the apps they use on a regular basis. Battery life has to increase. Yeah. But if they're using these applications, which today many of them use AI, it actually goes down. Yeah. So with the NPU, or what we call AI Boost, that is completely offloaded to this power efficient AI engine. Yeah. So that's the benefit, right? And we wanted to signal to end customers that when you buy these AI PC venue, you are getting something fundamentally different.
Yeah.
It's going to future-proof you for the next 3-4 years. As your next wave of AI applications come, you're ready for it. And that's why you transition to this new brand called Core Ultra. And this Core Ultra designates that what you're buying is an AI PC with an NPU. So we kind of wanted to signal a shift from the older gens to the new paradigm. And we also wanted to make it very simple and easy for the end consumer to understand.
Absolutely. I think you encompassed it very well, because if I see a laptop from, let's say, 3 odd years ago, even 4 years ago, the battery life would be 6 to 8 hours on a video loop test that someone would put out, right? But a few months ago, we reviewed a Core Ultra Series 2 powered laptop that lasted us for almost 17 hours.
Yes.
So if someone's upgrading in 3 years, that's just an example of the battery life difference that you're getting.
Yes.
And that's simply because, like you said, it's performance cores, efficiency cores, and then you also have the ultra efficiency cores.
Exactly.
In the new
what
ones.
we call the low power E cores.
Low power E cores, yes. A great example of how I've seen some OEMs use the AI capabilities is if you get an HP laptop, for example, right? They have used it in a way, and we've actually tried this, has gone in a very noisy area and then done a video call, and the entire background noise has kind of been removed. It's a very simple example, but it is a very real world use case of working from home, and you have the kitchen, the cooker going off, and that's not going to come in your conversations anymore. I mean, a lot of people go out and say that background blur has always been there for a while, but the way it works when you're doing things locally, it just makes that much of a difference. And then when you go a little more professional, we've used apps like Audacity, right, where you just say, give me 90s pop music, and it's just going to generate something out of thin air.
Exactly.
Adobe has shown off 2D to 3D art, so there's just so much real world application that has happened. How do you see this AI evolution, especially with content applications now being available, communicated to an audience in India? Because if you talk to anyone, and we do so many surveys where we ask people, and everyone comes back when you talk about Intel, they say ting 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 ting. That Intel inside marketing is still at the back of people's minds, right? So how has Intel worked at this communication to the audience? I know the OEMs do it in their own ways, but what does Intel say?
Yeah, no, that's very important to us, right? Because our legacy, and you brought up the bong, that still resonates in many people's minds, right? When you hear that, hey, it's Intel, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of nostalgia factor to it as well. So if you look at our legacy, when we innovate in terms of new hardware, processors, features, it's not just hardware ready throughout, right? We make sure that there is software which is built, optimized to use that efficiently. So we do a lot of extensive work with ISVs, OSVs, startups, etc., to build the right feature set for that, right? So for AI PCs, as Navkendar said, when we started, there was no one killer app, right? I mean, if you look at the phone, phone is pretty easy. You're carrying it, you're taking a picture, you can circle it, you can find what's this thing about. It's easy. But PC is different, right? You go to a PC when you want to do serious work, right? You want to get serious work done. So it can't be the same experience that you get on a phone, right? So with a PC, it's more subtle, I would say, right? When we started off, it's the everyday applications that you're using. You mentioned, background blurring in video collaboration, right? The noise cancellation. If you're using the, creation apps, you're a content creator, scene, change detection, right? When you're editing the video. So all these features, right? We started working with those ISVs to get those AI effects enabled on the NPU, right? Even something like security, right? If you are using antivirus, right, or you're using software to detect ransomware attacks or cryptojacking attacks, those used to earlier use the CPU or the GPU. And guess what? It's very intensive. It's running in the background, draining your battery, right? And then you have very little power left for your core applications. We work with those ISVs to offload that to the NPU.
Ask any gamer about the antivirus and the CPU
if you're
load.
A gamer and let's say you're gaming on one of these latest laptops with powerful iGPUs, and if your antivirus is using that iGPU, your gaming experience suffers, right? So by offloading that to NPU, we make that experience very smooth for the gamer. Now, in terms of getting the word out, right? So there are a few ways you can do this. The lazy way is to go on a spec. So we heard a lot about TOPS, etc., right? It's a number, right? But what does the number mean? Does it mean anything to the end user? It's a theoretical number. What really matters to the end user is what you can do with that. So what we have made it is we have, we work with over 200 ISVs, and there are about 400 AI features that we have enabled on the Intel Core Ultra processors. We have worked extensively with our OEM partners, etc., to make sure that those are showcased, right? In their stores, we go to large format retail stores. We train those in-store promoters to talk about it to the end user who walks in, show them the feature. We integrate those also in the online marketplaces as well. But what we've also done is we made it even simpler. So we've launched something called AI PC Showcase.
Okay.
If you go to Google it, Intel AI PC Showcase, you can go there, and whether you are a content creator or just simple productivity, student, gamer, whatever, right? You can find a select list of curated apps today which are available in the market, which use AI in some shape or form. How does it benefit that end user? And it's all working on Core Ultra, right? So we made it very simple for the end user to discover what they can do on the AI PC. And by the way, if you are a student, and if you're a student, chances are you're getting into learning about AI. You want to probably run some LLMs or SLMs on your laptop. We have something called AI Assistant Builder, right? We made it very easy for somebody to download this tool, right? Build a simple chatbot or a simple AI agent. Pick and choose what LLM, SLM you want to use. We have over 500 LLM models we have curated to make sure they run well on the Core Ultra. So anybody who wants to develop that can easily do it with the AI Builder. And we have something called AI Playground. So if you're using a laptop or a desktop with an Intel Arc GPU, it's a very nice tool by which we make it very easy for them to do things like generative AI, photo editing and so on.
Yeah.
So our job is to make sure that we really talk about the features that benefit end user and let them go discover what they can do. So these are some tools that we have in the pipeline.
Go ahead.
Put some color on this. So, see, in phones, we've been told for 20 years that it's all apps.
Yeah.
Right? Now we are trying to rewire the brain that you don't need the apps, AI will do something for you. It'll take some time. In PCs, there's a specific use case. I mean, both in the enterprise space and this also. A consumer has every consumer cohort has a specific use case. So when I walk into a large format retail, either I'm walking as a parent, one for my kid, or I'm a normal developer, or I'm a Soho SB which needs about 1 or 2 or 3. When I'm evaluating the laptop, I ask those specific questions that what can I do for. I think the conversation, which Akshay is saying, that conversation needs to be done that, so what do you need it for? What will you use it for most 90% of the times? And even if somebody says, I need it for my home, that means that home normal surfing is a use case for him.
Yeah.
He doesn't need fancy, stuff. So, which I keep on saying, and it, applicable to all devices. How do you explain that what you can do more with the device, why, without doing more on the device?
Yeah.
And that's what AI is supposed to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be on your face. So I think probably in 1 or 2 years, when really these killer apps start coming in, which are already there, and the communication starts happening, and the consumer doesn't need to be told that this is done by AI. It's being done by the machine. AI can be anything. It can be any LLM. Half the people might not know which, what is Claude or ChatGPT, outside their normal references which they might have seen in the technology reviews. It needs to be told that what it can be done. And from that point of view, I would not say your job is easy, obviously, because you're also facing them. But this is incumbent on the brands also, because on the shop floor or on the e-tail website, they're fighting within the themselves. Lenovo, HP, everybody's fighting within themselves, because if all the AI is available everywhere, which one is better? And that's where their marketing comes in. From Intel's point of view, obviously there has been a lot of development. Qualcomm's reason of existing in the PCs right now is entirely on AI.
Yeah.
Performance, AI and battery. And battery was started because it is squarely pegged against M2, M3, M4. Right?
Yeah.
I can go out of my home, pick up my laptop, it uses a USB-C, I don't need another separate charger, it'll run me for 12, 13, 14 hours.
Yeah.
And it's still a mobile kind of device.
Yeah.
So, obviously Qualcomm in the consumer space is giving competition to Intel. AMD in the enterprise space has started doing that. But within all that also, Intel is still about 70% of the market. Now on AI PC specifically, AI is in this year, IDC predicts, so by exit of 2025, about 20-25% of the PCs will have AI, basic and even Gen. The rest all will not have. This flips next year. Next year, we believe around 57, around 60% will have an AI. Now, is it consumer driven? Probably not. A lot of it will be supply driven, because there will be no non-AI PCs available. There will be some brands who brand Asus and Acer, they are trying to have at the bottom of the pyramid in the PC game, in the PC pyramid, where first time users, students who are using a tablet, they want to buy a laptop now. So though they are trying to take those consumers, but otherwise largely AI will be a story in 2026, both enterprise and consumers.
But then there are two ways of looking at this, right? Because in the past when we've spoken, you've said things like 5G is still the primary use case of people upgrading a phone in India, whereas AI on phones is still the add-on.
Correct.
So one question is, again, you've answered part of that yes, that is the same tradition
even
on
with
a
the 5G,
laptop.
5G, there's no 4G phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I go out and buy, it's a 5G phone, 5G is a hygiene.
Yeah.
AI is available everywhere in all the devices. How much I want to use, I can use, and I've been explained to use in my use case, is incumbent on the brands and the ecosystem to do that. And that's where the fight is happening. You go to LFR, there are about 20 laptops lying there. Everyone will have a bunting, small bunting, that this is a Copilot PC or an AI PC or AI powered with next gen PC and everything else. Consumer is very confused right now.
Yeah.
And that's where the game is. That's a moment of truth which happens.
But it also actually, I feel at some point depends on how the consumer uses it, and it's the younger audience who is more attuned and open and accepting to it. Like for me, for example, my Alexa speaker at home is nothing more than play this or tell me this news or whatever these things I have. My 3-year-old daughter will run in and talk to Alexa more than us because she's asking about different animals, the sounds they make, play a particular song, how can I do this? And because of that, I figured out that if I have an Alexa at my parents' place, you can actually have a conversation. She can just say, Alexa, call Dadu, and they can have a conversation without actually having a physical phone. Now, Alexa is one of the first guys who came up with the whole AI assistant kind of a thing, but she at 3 has already surpassed the use cases that I have. So the fact that the slightly older audience is going with the traditional buying mentality versus the younger audience, I'm sure that's also a change in trend which we will start seeing a lot more.
Yeah, our glass is not completely spilling over, right? So that's how it is.
The polite way of saying we're getting old.
We are getting old.
Yeah. But coming back to the PCs, right? I mean, I have been in the PC space since this 600 megahertz processors was what Intel was offering. That's the PCs I have seen. And I'm going to give this example as my dad's old laptop started getting slow and all he told me was, Sam, the laptop is slow and I need to change it. I said, no, let's just replace your hard drive with an SSD and it's back to normal. It'll give you another year at least, right? So the laptop's life cycle today, anyways, all of them are coming with SSDs. So that problem of slow ho gaya is gone. You replace a battery, it gives you back the battery life. The upgrade cycle, I feel, has kind of grown because people who are buying laptops every 2 years or 3 years for home use cases are now going almost 4 to 5 years with the same laptop, right? So as Intel, I mean, that's a good thing that you're making the hardware that's lasting longer, but then the upgrade cycle means that, the refresh cycle has changed. So how do you view this, changing life cycle of the PC?
Yeah, I think regarding the refresh cycle, if you go back quite some few years back, India, I believe the refresh cycle was actually much larger, right? We used to talk about 7-8 years for an average person, to refresh. Enterprise is different; they refresh faster. They have to. But for a typical consumer, not cutting edge, 7-8 years was typically the refresh cycle. Right? They would stretch it as much as you can, as you said, change the RAM, put an SSD, and that's what it is. I think the last 4-5 years, we've seen the refresh cycle actually come down from 7-8 years to now that 3-4 years. Right? Okay. So during COVID and post-COVID, and this also coincides with the boom of gaming in India, we've seen that there was more awareness about the kind of specs I need, kind of performance I need. The use cases, the softwares that use the PC have also been evolving very fast. And gaming, you probably know, is evolving very fast. Right? The kind of requirements that games have on the hardware today, not just from the performance, but also the storage requirements, the RAM they need, ray tracing, and all that is for kind of pushing an upgrade cycle that's much more faster, right? And hardcore gamers get it. They want to be on the edge of the curve, and they do refresh. I think going forward, while post-COVID, we've probably seen the refresh cycle kind of stall around that 3, 4, or 4, 5 years. I think going forward, it's gonna come back to an earlier refresh. The reason being is that what we are seeing, we keep coming back to AI PCs, but I do honestly believe that the way AI use cases will evolve, I think none of us can forecast it or predict it accurately right now, right? The way the industry is adopting it, the way even the big guys are, bringing AI from the cloud to the edge, right? We've seen even folks like ChatGPT release now an open model which you can download and run on your PC. That does require beefy hardware. Beefy hardware in terms of a strong AI engine, whether that's NP or GPU, right? You need a lot of RAM to run that large language model. So we're going to keep seeing those advancements happen, and with a trend towards now more, I would say, integrated RAM or soldered RAM, where you can't swap out the RAM models, which means that in 3-4 years you'll probably be looking at buying a new laptop, which has much beefier specs. So I believe that this trend of AI, like it or not, is going to accelerate, and it will place severe demands on the hardware. People will start seeing the benefits, right? And as they see the benefits, as students, as professionals, also seek to become skilled in AI, they will also start to refresh earlier. So I believe that we are on the cusp of this accelerating even further in India.
See, another thing here is, which is, while right now hardware is driving, because supply is happening of, which is enabled by enabled silicon, and that's where brands are. But we have to see that consumers will respond to all the refresh cycle. Akshay said that they respond to the use cases that are getting created for them. As a student, for example, till 2019, somebody can go 100% of his life without even opening his laptop. A student, or even many work from home, and they were hardly work from home at that time. It was exceptional cases, exceptional approvals. Now it's not the case. You can come 100% of the time, but still it's expected that remote working is there, or the hardware, and you have the apparatus around you which can enable you can take call from anywhere. Teams meeting and Skypes and other things used to be there. Now it's no longer So those use cases are pushing people to buy better hardware, because everything which was bought in 2019, 20, frankly, when pandemic hit 2020 and 21, every hardware was being bought. Irrespective of the quality, because there was no supply at that time. A lot of that refresh is coming in. And the acceleration of the AI as a hardware has to translate into the use cases which will actually go to the refresh cycle. People, and the fear of missing out will also happen. My friend has a latest laptop which has AI, which he can do, this gen cannot. I need to refresh it. So that will start happening in 1.5 year will start happening. Right now, obviously, refresh is there because you have used this device hardware so much in the past 2-3 years that it's aging now. It's showing aging. And some of the use cases which are expected out of you as a job, as a cohort, are not being supported by the hardware. That's what's happening now.
So, that actually leans very well into my next question, which came about affordable AI PCs, right? You've said in the past many times that India is a very price-sensitive market. AI chips, though, yes, you'll have the Core Ultra 9s and the flagship models, of course, of laptops, which are premium, but the belly of the beast is still the budget segment, right? So how do you see newer technologies, newer trends coming into the budget space and the adoption and upgrade cycle?
So I think any new technology, it takes time to, waterfall down to, budget price points or affordable price points, right? Same is the case with AI PC, no different. When we saw the launch of AI PCs for the first time, they came into premium higher end systems, right? Our Core Ultra Series 2, the V series processor, Luna Lake, which is our flagship in terms of battery life, 20 hours plus battery life on video, top of the line performance, high end graphics, integrated graphics, high end AI processing. When we launched that last year, we saw from OEM systems were priced above $1 lakh and so on, right? But you'll be surprised, well, not actually surprised, but this is expected that we are seeing now the price of those Luna Lake V series now in that 80 to 90,000 range. Right? So what you are seeing is that is Core Ultra Series 2, our Core Ultra Series 1, which is the Meteor Lake first generation. You can today buy a Core Ultra Series 1 AI laptop in the 50 to 60,000 range, right? So what you're seeing in India over the
and on sale it goes below 50K.
It also may, right? So what you're seeing is India consumer, right? Traditionally used to be a budget buyer, right? And we used to say like 30,000 to 40,000 was the sweet spot. Over the last 3-4 years, we've seen, because of the premiumization trend, that sweet spot shifting to 50 to 60, right? And we are also seeing evidence that it may even go up to 60 to 70.
That's right.
So that sweet spot of 50 to 70, we have now a lot of good AI PC options, as I mentioned. And even our flagship Luna Lake is kind of coming down towards that 80,000 price point. So as months go by, you will probably see this trend even accelerate. We do have a very strong roadmap going forward to really make AI PCs more affordable, right? So you will start seeing those as it ramps becoming more affordable and for the mainstream buyer a lot more options coming.
Hopefully Panther Lake and everything also will help.
Yeah.
But I'll just touch upon this point. So this is not really a very, I mean, it's a value conscious market. We are value conscious consumers. But it's not really that, value of the, for example, in phones, less than $300 is about 80% of the market. That's not the case here. Now this dovetails to the point of, which is not related to probably this discussion, why tablets are also growing. Because many consumers are saying, I bought something in 2020 and 21, either I bought a tablet or I bought a low-end, whatever laptop was available at that time. I don't need the whole shebang there, right? So I don't need everything else. I am a student who just needs to do PDF and others, and that's why the tablet guys are catching those in the affordable segment. When I say affordable, brands like Xiaomi and OnePlus and others, so anything between 15,000 to about 35,000. Above that, and PC is a high involvement purchase, right? So then you start going into the whole process of researching to 91 mobiles. Then you go to the shop, there on the retail outside. Then you start, coalescing around your use case and then the brand and everything else. So it's a high involvement. So I'd say 40 to 70,000 is a price point where AI will start coming in and people are willing to buy and spend money because they know that they'll keep it for 4 or 5 years. It has to be, if not the latest, the greatest. You can go buy 2.5 lakh Mac also, but that half the people don't need it, right? So, but 40 to 70, 75,000 is a good price point to have a second device which people are buying apart from the phones.
And I mean, like you said, when people come into research now, they'll certainly see that the brand name they're seeing in their phones, like Qualcomm now being available in laptops. Has Qualcomm really taken some market share in the PC space, or is it still very small?
See, it's a process. You've seen the PC industry. There are giants and legacy players like Intel, Microsoft, Lenovo, HP, Dell. I mean, these are seasoned players, right? So obviously it takes time. It took a lot of time. It took pandemic probably for AMD to find some grounds in enterprise space also, right? So, I would be wrong if I say Qualcomm has not been able to find some ground. Obviously, some brand rub-off is there, but obviously it needs to be explained and sold more. That while I bought a Snapdragon phone, and in phones also Snapdragon and MediaTek is doing well, right? So Qualcomm is also facing heat from. So here they're entering the market. In the consumer space, they're able to get some mind share of the consumer. It needs to be seen that, and then obviously then Windows on ARM starts coming in, right? So will all the apps work? Am I sacrificing anything if I'm buying a Qualcomm Snapdragon? Apparently not. We've used some machines, but it needs to be changed. So they need to sell the concept of entering a field where Intel has 70% market share. AMD is making some inroads, and people are acceptance of that brand also now. And that's a third one which is happening. So it's going to be slightly difficult for them and slightly longer road.
Yeah, Windows on ARM took its own time to have some form
We've been here
of...
for past 15 years, right?
Yes.
Metro tiles on Windows and everything else in 2013, 14. Yeah,
it's been a while. But yeah, I mean, competition is the mother of all innovations, right?
Absolutely.
That's how they push each other to do better. So how is Intel looking at, the new kid on the block coming in and having a completely different architecture? The technological discussion is a complete different ballgame. But how do you see the competition steering up from just being a mainstream two players to now having a third player come in?
Yeah, well, as you rightly said, competition is always good. It keeps us active, and it's good for the end consumer in terms of getting innovation, right? See, from our point of view, we've had a long history in the PC space, right? One of the oldest X 86 players.
Yeah.
Legacy is rich, and we continue to build on that, right?
Okay.
If we look at where we want to be in terms of, we always want to be there in terms of serving the needs of our customers, right? And that means giving them a great experience, right, for the what they want to do on their PC, right?
Yeah.
So whether that's playing games, whether that's creating, editing videos in a jiffy, using AI, very secure. You can be rest assured your PC is going to be protected. We want to make sure that they get all that on an Intel processor, right?
Yeah.
So our focus is, while we innovate in terms of getting, new features into our hardware, like look, I already talked about our legacy, but even if you look at AI, right, apart from the NPU, we have a lot of innovations that we have done from the graphics side, right? So the Intel Arc graphics which you find in our Luna Lake V processors, now the Ultra C to Arrow Lake processors, they're pretty powerful. And even in the integrated graphics, we have something called XMX, right? XMX engines, which are the ones which are responsible for doing those advanced matrix multiplications, which is the foundation for running AI.
Yeah.
So XMX in our our graphics in Arrow Lake is what gives the GPU, iGPU in this, the power to run AI, large language models, SLMs. So that is one, right? And I think the most important thing for us, apart from this is we work extensively, as I said, with ISVs, right? That 200 ISVs that I talked about, that's just getting, the list is getting bigger. We want to make sure that when somebody buys a laptop with, Intel processor, they have complete peace of mind that, everything just works, right?
Yeah.
There's no legacy issues, the printers, the antivirus, the drivers, whatever they are using, all work, no compatibility issues. If they are a gamer, they know that game, irrespective of what game it is, will run because it's X 86. So that peace of mind is there. In terms of things like battery life, hey, we are now, I would say, leading, right? Our Luna Lake processors, like I said, close to 20 hours, even exceeds 20 hours in some cases if you're watching video. So we are right there in terms of top end battery life. So we've closed all those gaps that are perceived gaps that are there. And then in terms of the software compatibility, I think no one beats us, right? In terms of the widest application compatibility, right? And that's not a coincidence. That's not trivial. There is a lot of extensive work that we do behind the scenes, right? Even in India, right? We are working with a lot of Indian ISVs, startups, to see what can we build. How can we enable them to build their applications on AI PCs, right? So education, for example, right? I believe education is going to be a big driver of PC purchases in the next few years.
True.
So if I'm a parent looking to buy a PC for my kid, I probably put them in coaching classes, etc. But today you have something called AI tutors, right? You can use ChatGPT, whatever. What if tomorrow the tutor comes on your laptop, can use your AI engines to make a very customized learning plan for your kid, right? Completely safe, secure. Your data is not going into the cloud. Your data is not going to any service provider. Resident on your PC, protected, and your AI tutor knows how your kid is doing, how he is scoring or she is scoring on the exams, and develops a very customized learning plan. So these are the kind of innovations that I think would be coming in the future. We work very closely with the ecosystem to make it happen. So that's the value added.
So I saw this. I'm not sure if Intel is a partner there. So I was in Australia last week. So I saw that in the school. Obviously, there's a fear among all the educators is that AI will take away all the creativity of the kids, right? So what that school, and I think the chain of school has done is they said we don't want to fear it. We adopted it. So what they did is they created on the private cloud, they created their local agent, which works on a Claude or something. What they do is if let's say a student says, write a minority report, kind of script with Romeo and Juliet kind of style. AI says, I can't write it for you. I can give you the tips how it can be done, but I can't do the output for you. And that's the first thing which comes out. So students said that it doesn't write for us. It just gives us some few pointers, then we have to write on our own. So I think these kind of use cases, the ecosystem has to get together, and education is going to be the major driver. Because these kids, if they start adopting AI now, in a meaningful manner, in a safe manner, which doesn't do anything with creativity, that's going to be big. They are going to be the next set of consumers when they grow out, and professions are not same now. They can be developers or creators or hobbyists or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think education, as rightly said, is probably the next big driver of PC purchases and use cases. I think we have barely scratched the surface.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of fear today that is AI going to dumb down our kids because they just go to an AI and get their homework done or whatever. I don't think so. I think AI is going to challenge both educators, parents, and students. Now that you can research something easily, how much more can you make your kids think differently using AI as a tool or assistant to really amp up the game, as to say, right? So I think the example mentioned, right, is just one great one. These will only evolve very fast as we go forward.
Absolutely, yeah. My closing question on all the serious questions is, one, anything else you guys would like to add that I may not have asked in this conversation? And what is your expectation for the next year of PCs?
No, I think I will just say that I'm very bullish about the future of PCs in India, right? Pre-pandemic, we were around 9-10 million in terms of a PC TAM. Post-pandemic, we saw natural, demand being created for obvious reasons. Now we are at about, 15 million odd in terms of PC TAM. But if I look at India as a market, right, and I compare it with the giants like US and China in terms of the TAM, if I look at our household penetration rates, right, there is still a lot of room for us to grow, right? Absolutely a lot of room for us to grow. So the big question is, how do we get there, right? And if you look at, I mean, there are natural growth levers, gaming, and as MSMEs grow, that's going to create demand for PCs in the SMB, enterprises, and so on. But I think from a consumer standpoint, education, like I repeatedly say it, is the next big one, right? If you look at our education landscape, we have close to about 80 million odd students in K6, K12. Half of them are in private, right? So I don't think it's an affordability issue. I think it's more of how do we make it more relevant, right? How do we reassure parents that buying a PC, laptop for your kid is in their best interest, and that involves developing the right software, the tools, controls for parents to control what kids do. They can curate the experiences that they have on the laptop, and the right AI tools or tutors, which I think over the next couple of years, as this advances very rapidly, you'll start seeing fruition, and that will kick off a big demand cycle in the education space, right? I'm very excited about that. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, I think the future is bright.
Okay.
So next year AI should be one of the major talking points. I mean, right now, it's not. But I think it'll go beyond talking and go into the application space. And I'll stress upon the education piece. I think that's where the meat on the bone will be in the AI. And I don't think that it's beyond probably Intel and some of the other players. Like some of these private schools, there's not an affordability issue. It's about the fear and the scare about the AI. And I think as a part of many of these schools have digital literacy classes They start with, my kid is in grade 3, he's already started doing that. So I think something like, possibly I'm just thinking of Intel Digital Literacy Center within the schools, where you just create the use cases for the school and the classes and just educate them about the AI and enable them. Because one of the problems with this is, while government schooling, the purchases happens through states or the center, right? And that's been one of the major, LCOT and others, that's been one of the major drivers of education in that. In the private space, I think in the education, a lot of, they understand, the audience is there, but I think the meaningful conversation in the sense that find a balance between how this can help you and how the entire ecosystem will be there. Secondly, I believe in the enterprise space, we will see some softening of demand in the sense that now the big asterisk, if these tariffs remain and 25 on top of the 25, then second order effect will start coming in as exports suffer for us. As long as the tariffs are there, exports suffer, companies stop spending, and SMBs and others and micro enterprises, I think that's going to be second order effect and the salaries get impacted. And this will be across devices, not only for this. So that's the expectation about 26. Obviously the tariff part is
subject to change. Subject to which side of the bed someone wakes up.
Absolutely.
Just one follow-up to what Navkendar said, right, from the education standpoint. I think he said it right, in terms of how do we engage with the private schools, government policy influencing, working with the states to make sure that the ICT labs in the schools have the right infrastructure. I think there's a lot of awareness and appetite from the government side of things. They realize that AI is absolutely crucial, right, for kids, for youngsters, for young professionals to be upskilled on, because that is the future, right? So we do have our outreach efforts, intelligent outreach efforts. We engage with the government on policy matters. We engage with CBSE, for example, many of the state governments, etc. Right? So as they are upgrading the ICT labs, we are doing our part to make them aware about the importance of AI, have the latest hardware. We have skilling programs that we offer to teachers, educators, and so on. Right? So I think this is an industry-wide effort. We have our partners, the OEMs, etc. It's the ecosystem is, and the PC ecosystem is really getting together, I think, to really address this.
True.
Absolutely, that's it. And for those of you that are watching, remember that you can subscribe to the channel for more episodes like this one. This is where we're ending this one. Thank you so much, Navkendar. Thank you so much, Akshay, for joining me here today. We will catch you in another video. It's goodbye for now.